So the people that go to your retreat, what are they mostly looking for?
I think the majority of people that are taking these substances are looking for a kind of personal healing or personal growth and development. Uh, there's kind of two camps. There's the people that have acute problems and they know it and they're trying to solve those problems. And then there are other people who are trying to improve their lives and ultimately have a better life and get more out of life. And they're trying to increase their overall understanding of spirituality. They're expanding their consciousness, and they really are there to learn. Our center's been, very, very serious and dedicated to the medicinal practices of these plants. And so we've been known for, very strict, very professional practice. And so there are very few people that come for just exploration. Most people are coming for a very specific reason. They feel a calling, and it's typically, like I said, around healing or around, total human optimization and the expansion of consciousness.
What do you usually do? More the ayahuasca acting, or is it the healer or the shaman really guiding, sort of like a therapy?
Oh, it's very much like a therapy, although there's very little talking, so it's not talk therapy. You don't have to talk about the nature of the experience at all, but it is a guided 100% of the time. If you just take ayahuasca, you may or may not be able to help somebody. You may or may not be able to heal somebody. It's a misunderstanding to think of the ayahuasca tea itself as the medicine. There's a sacred trinity that's necessary to be able to ensure a proper outcome with ayahuasca. And that's really, professionally made ayahuasca itself. And then it's also the medicine person or the shaman. And it's the idea of spirit or the forest having life and the different medicinal plants having a kind of energy that can be imparted to you. And so you need all three aspects of it to be able to have what we would consider to be a medicine ceremony. And, then the way that you ultimately guide somebody is through a transformational journey, which will come to a point where the origins or the source of the problem are released from the person. And so the person will go on a journey. It's nonlinear. It can be, super intense, unbelievably intense. It can also be very, very mild. It'll have waves. It'll be stronger. It'll be subtler. There'll be much brighter colors, much more visions. There will be less, etc. And through that period of time, the person's entire energetic body, their physical body, their mind, and their consciousness is being really attuned to another vibration or another frequency that no longer is creating the anxiety or creating the depression or creating the attachment to the experiences from the past that have caused these problems.
So do you think it's mostly something that cures psychological problems, or have you seen it cure other types of more chronic diseases?
I think a lot has to do with timing, and it has to do with the individual person. So there's many, many different kinds of illnesses that are treated with ayahuasca and also other medicinal plants. The other medicinal plants typically are not talked about as much because since ayahuasca is the visionary plant, it's the one that gets, the most attention. But really what's important are the different medicinal plants that are used. And so when you heal in the Amazon, you heal the physical body, but you also heal the spirit at the same time. And the spirit could just be thought of as like the really, really deep you inside yourself. Like just think about if you're in a lot of pain and you feel it, that's you. When you're really happy and you feel it, that's you. That's what they're referring to as your spirit. So it's not like a foreign concept, independent of you. It's the deepest part of what it is for you to be alive. And so whenever you're sick in the Amazon, the traditional people believe that you need to fix the body part where there could be some kind of chronic disease or illness. And then you also need to fix the self. You need to, because the self has been changed or altered through the traumatic experience of illness itself, you're also going to treat the self. And you'll do that with the kinds of ceremonies like ayahuasca. So when you combine the different kinds of treatments together, you ultimately treat much more than just psychological illnesses. So in terms of psychological illnesses, you can treat PTSD, depression, anxiety disorders, etc. And with the help of other kinds of medicinal plants, you can also treat lots of other physical illnesses, from gastrointestinal illnesses to, even cancer has been treated. Blindness has been reversed, which is, truly miraculous. And different kinds of, literally miraculous healings take place. Chronic pain goes away for some people. Injury sites where they've had different kinds of injuries or surgery sites can be healed as well. And there can be a tremendous physical transformation. It's not yet fully studied by science. And so it's not clear, why some people get healed physically and other people don't. In the mysticism, they look at it that's, an unknown, and you just try to heal everybody that you can. And some people will be healed and, obviously others won't. And you're looking for an efficacy rate or effective rate that's very similar to that of Western medicine.
And what are the potential dangers from participating in this ayahuasca ceremonies?
Well, I think the biggest danger is that you have a negative effect instead of a positive effect. And it can be a very intense experience, which is why I say it's something you don't want to experiment with. This is not an experimental thing. Ayahuasca has been used for literally thousands of years in the Amazon as a form of healing. And there's a reason why it ultimately ended up in the hands of professionals that were highly trained in the use of it. To give you a perspective, typical training is anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And it usually takes between 10 and 15 years before you're considered really well-trained and really experienced in the practice. So, it's a tremendous amount of training that goes into being a traditional Amazonian medicine person. The dangers are that you have a negative effect ultimately.
When you talk about training, how's that training like?
Training is completely intense. It's a different form of learning than you've ever experienced from a Western perspective. Fundamentally, you go through long periods of ceremonies and long periods of dietas. And dietas are fasts where you're only allowed to eat a very limited number of foods, and you're only allowed to drink a very limited number of things to drink, really only water and lemongrass tea. And you're only allowed to eat a couple of foods during the fast. You have very low caloric intake. And the fasts can, depending on your lineage, can be weeks long, or they can be months long to years long. And during that period of time, you drink lots of different kinds of medicinal plants. So you go into states of consciousness where you can learn directly from the plants. The beginning of training is to learn how to communicate with the plants so that the plants can teach you directly. And then that's facilitated by the medicine people. So the shaman really bridges your consciousness or makes a connection between you and the medicinal plants so that then they can continue to work with you and you can access their knowledge. And then once that link has been made, you're then in that world. And it's a directly transformative experience. It's not the taking on of just information. It's not book learning. It's a thing that you do through these transformative experiences that ultimately give you the skills that are necessary to be able to practice.
You're experiencing it while you're learning. So it's like very hands-on.
That's correct. It's 100% experiential learning. Yeah, it's 100% experiential learning. There's literally almost no data information. It's all taught through oral history. So you get told stories and you're expected to learn from the stories. And other than that, you're in ceremony or you're in dieta. And, to give you an idea, typical apprenticeship, you'll participate in over 100 ceremonies a year. And you'll also be in dieta over 200 days a year.
So you're fasting right now, basically.
Yeah, you would be if you were in training.